I've been playing with a preview version of Excel 2013, so here are a few pointers to anybody who's considering upgrading, particularly in as far as it affects the use of cube formula reports. Supposing that you open in Excel 2013 a workbook that has in it a PowerPivot model built with the 2012 PowerPivot add-in. Then if you try to access data, for example, in a pivot table, you'll get an error message that tells you that the PowerPivot data isn't supported by this version of Excel and you need to upgrade. To start the upgrade process, click on the PowerPivot tab. Notice how these tabs now have all capital letters in their names. Click on the Manage button and you'll get the same error message again. Click OK. Then you're invited to upgrade the workbook. If you're going to use this workbook with Excel 2010 again, then make sure you have a backup copy because there's no going back. It can take several seconds depending upon the size of the workbook to convert it. Once conversion's complete, you're invited to save, close and reopen the workbook, which you will need to do to use it in Excel 2013. Notice that the field list is somewhat more similar to the field list of a classic pivot table. It's no longer called a PowerPivot field list. It has no search box. There are no slicer areas, though you can set up slicers a different way. And it has a defer layout update option. Looking at some other cosmetic differences while we're here, the PowerPivot window button in 2010 is now the PowerPivot Manage button. The Create Linked Tables button is Add to Data Model, and this no longer says Excel Data. The Pivot Table Tools tab now has Analyze and Design rather than Options and Design. Options was always a bit confusing because there was options over here as well. The Pivot Table Tools Design tab is pretty much as before. Going back to the Analyze tab and doing a Convert to Formulas, again looks similar. Interestingly, one of the columns that wasn't being displayed, CY 2012, is now added during the conversion, which didn't happen in Excel 2010. That shouldn't be a problem, because you can always simply delete it afterwards. As you probably know, when you create a cube formula report from a PowerPivot model in Excel 2010, it gives it the default data connection name of PowerPivot data. Now, that's no longer the case with Excel 2013, and if you open a workbook that has such a report in it, then you'll get a bunch of NAs. What you will need to do is change the data connection name in each of your cube functions. Now, if that's in one place, in one cell, and all the cube functions reference that, then it's easy to do. If not, you'll need to do a global search and replace on your workbook. So I do Control H and replace PowerPivot data with this workbook data model. And you can see that it now retrieves the data successfully. So this workbook data model is the default name for a connection to a PowerPivot model in Excel 2013. So as far as cube formula reports and PowerPivot are concerned, these are the only or the main differences I've seen between Excel 2010 and Excel 2013. But two other things that are interesting. One is I did see on Microsoft's site somewhere a reference to an object model for PowerPivot, meaning that you can control updates of the PowerPivot model through VBA macros, which you haven't been able to do in Excel 2010. And the second thing worth a look at in Excel 2013, nothing really to do with cube formula reports as such, is this Inquire tab. This has some very useful functionality to help you audit your workbooks, to track down errors, to look at relationships between workbooks and other workbooks, relationships between worksheets in a workbook, and to do things such as interactive diagnostics and highlight in certain colors cells that satisfy certain criteria, such as perhaps nested if statements.